Joining me to talk about the fight to protect American sovereignty is the Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council, Art Del Cueto. Art, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you. When you hear candidates talk about, ICE, it's a cruel tactic, it's a cruel tool, what you all are doing. I know that there was one other, there was a journalist that writes for, I believe it was BuzzFeed, that was saying that it was just like a clown squad, and they're basically enforcing very cruel, they're using cruel tactics to enforce cruel laws. What does that do? What do you think of that? I mean, because these people, as I mentioned, Art, they also failed to discuss how it was ICE that figured out there was an ISIS-associated individual in California, deported a Nazi, and have really been on the front lines of making sure that American families are safe all throughout the country. When you hear that, how do you respond?
Honestly, these individuals, I don't know what world they're living in. I don't know what they see. Prior to me working where I've been working and doing this job with Border Patrol for 15 years. Prior to this, I worked for a state prison. And I can tell you, I've seen what evil really looks like. The largest prison system in Tucson, Arizona, is what we have detained there is illegal aliens. And that's one of the big keys. We have to say it like it is. These people aren't illegal immigrants. They're illegal aliens. That's what they are. One of those, and that's a key word that a lot of these politicians, they fail to want to use. They want to say that we're anti-immigrant. We're not anti-immigrant. We're anti-illegal aliens entering our country. I'm sick and tired of these criminals that enter our country being the nice guys and the people that are trying to uphold the law, the people that are trying to enforce the law, the people that are trying to protect our borders, us being looked at as the bad guys. It's honestly, it's disgusting. You have this situation that happened with Mollie now, where an individual entered this country illegally, and he lived here illegally in the United States. He doesn't share our culture. He doesn't share our world views. He doesn't even share our value system. And this individual killed this young lady, killed her, and left her there for days. And to have politicians attack us, the people that are trying to stop these animals from entering the country, is disgusting. And when I say animals, when I call them rapists, when I call them murderers, when I call them pieces of garbage, I am not referring to any particular race. Illegal is not a race. We aren't arresting people based on their race. We're arresting people that are criminals that are trying to enter our country and harm our way of life. And the one thing I constantly hear, and I'm sick and tired of hearing, is, oh, well, we have criminals in the United States. I know we have criminals in the United States, but that doesn't mean we need to import more criminals from another country.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the arguments, obviously, that's come up in this Tibbetts case. And one of the things that was going back and forth, there was a story earlier today that he may have fraudulently stolen identification and was able, this murderer, to get through E-Verify. But the employer says they finally came clean and said, no, he actually didn't do that. Apparently, they were aware that the individual was here illegally. And isn't that kind of how it goes? I mean, if someone has, criminal tendencies, people who maybe have, committed murder previously, like the individual we talked about. He was taking his wife to the hospital for a C-section, had been in the country for 12 years, but also had an outstanding murder warrant, and that's why ICE detained him. I mean, yeah, they don't typically, people who are intent on breaking the laws don't typically follow the laws anyway, and Art, that goes along with entering a country legally, right?
Well, and then the headlines on that other case that you just noted, the headlines were this individual's driving his wife to the hospital, and he was detained while she's having to go have her baby. But what they failed to write in there is that this individual was wanted for murder. And that's what they should have really written down there. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm really glad that you have this show, because no one has reached out. I constantly do a ton of shows through a lot of medias, but nobody seems to have reached out. Nobody wants to make a big deal out of these two stories like it should be. People need to be aware of this. And they're quick to blame the president on issues. The president ran his campaign